I'm a fourth generation Californian, a third generation San Franciscan. So I grew up Irish Catholic. It's more than a religion, it's a culture. And so even if you never go to church again, you will always have in your bones the culture of being Irish Catholic. I went to the same grammar school as my mother. So all the nuns at the Catholic school in the mission knew my entire family and my mother. So I was very fortunate. I had great teachers. In my 8th grade, I had one of the only Black Sisters of Mercy, but she was amazing. And so even though I didn't agree with the rigor and the rigidity of the hierarchy of the Catholic Church, I loved her as a friend. I think, coming to my own realization of my sexual orientation was a journey. It wasn't a straight line. So it's not like I was 4 years old and I knew I was a lesbian. No way. I had a group of women when I was in my 20s, and we would go out to the clubs, the gay clubs, so we wouldn't be bothered by the men, and so we could dance. And this one Friday night, this stunning 5'10" blonde captain of the Stanford swim team walked into this gay club and asked me to dance. And I had this electricity go all the way down to my toes. So I knew just then I've got to explore this. When I'm out as a queer person, and this is what Harvey Milk said, come out wherever you are, everybody, it turns out, just about everybody now knows somebody. Unfortunately, my whole life is transcending homophobia. So whether it's correcting people who are supposed to be progressive about why gay marriage is so important, why domestic partnership is not equal to gay marriage, even the most educated people I have had to correct over and over again. I've had some terrible experiences with friends. I had one friend sitting in the car when I screwed up my courage to come out to her, who literally grabbed onto the handle of the car, pulled over to the window to avoid being near me. I had another friend say, I would love you if you were a prostitute or a drug addict or a criminal. She was equating being gay with being those things. Coming out is not a one-time event. It's a process. And the hard thing about being LGBTQ, even today, straight people don't have to go somewhere to a friend or to an event or to a group and say, hi, I'm straight. But queer people have to keep coming out because the assumption is you're straight unless you're out. It's just harder. It's just harder being the minority in a dominant straight culture. So I love dance, so I went into dance, right? If you like golf, there are gay golf clubs. If you like volleyball, if you like softball, if you like swimming, and almost all those sports are included in the gay games. And the gay games are like the Olympics. They come around once every 4 years, and they're in a different city all over the world. But at the height, we went to the gay games in Cologne, Germany. There were 400 dancers from around the world. We studied with a ballroom dance teacher and took several classes with other LGBTQ dancers. And what I love about preparing for and participating in the gay games is it's a global community, and you become part of that global community. When a friend of mine was on the board and they were raising money for the LGBTQIA Center of the SF Public Library, they had a situation where you could pledge $1,000 over a 3-year period. So it was like $30 a month. So I thought, well, anybody can do, I can do $30 a month. So that's what I did. And I became one of the founding members of that LGBTQIA Center, one of the largest collections in a public library of queer titles, queer videos, queer archives, queer magazines.
And then in my books, Pride and Joy, talking about LGBTQ people living contributing, fulfilling, happy, out lives. And hoping that the people who read my book will find someone who inspires them. I wrote a book called Climbing the Corporate Ladder in High Heels. And it really was a feminist book, which is why Nancy Pelosi endorsed it. Because I was advocating for the 80% of women who have to work dual income in order to live in California, for example, and own a home. And my book was about how to work in corporate America, but not sacrifice your whole life, that you could have a career and a life, and you shouldn't have to give up one for the other. So that's about as feminist as they come. America is a backward country when it comes to taking care of children and women. We are the only industrialized nation in the world that does not have a federally guaranteed paid family leave. So when we talk about women's rights, the first thing I say, or I used to say, and this was my book in 2006, was, ladies, if you want to have equal rights, you need to have equally paid family leave when you have a child, with a guarantee of coming back to your same job. I was on the board of directors that raised all the money for services for single mothers with small children. And so we were serving kids from 2 years old to 12 years old. And it was one of the most advanced family childcare programs I've ever been associated with. While I was on that board, I also was a recruiter for Holy Names College. And I was recruiting underrepresented minorities who were poor to come back to college in an accelerated program and finish their degrees so that they could get better jobs, so that they could have better lives with their families. And those were the women I was more directly involved with. Operation Concern was the largest and longest running mental health nonprofit for LGBTQ San Franciscans. Well, at the time, AIDS was raging. It was 92 to 94 that I was on the board, and there were so many young men dying of AIDS. I went to 10 funerals in 2 years, and I was in my 30s. That should not happen. So we had a lot of support groups for gay men. We had a lot of counseling for gay men. And I was one of the only lesbians on the board. And I just kept saying, what about breast cancer? And they kept trying to say, well, breast cancer isn't as fatal as AIDS. And I said, yeah, it is. So that's what I was able to accomplish being on that board, to get them to see that breast cancer was in the same category as AIDS. And they needed mental health support to go through that. So that was Operation Concern, and I was the vice president and part of the fundraising committee. So that's where we did all these events and raised money. My biggest activism has been to have a gay marriage in 2001 and bring together friends and family to witness that marriage, to be out and proud, to get married officially in San Francisco for the 3 months or 5 months it was available in 2008, and to get married officially in New Zealand in 2014 before we had federal marriage in the United States with my Kiwi wife. So I think all those acts were radical acts, and they were in favor of love and holding that our love is equal to anybody else's love. In 2001, we got married in quote unquote a commitment ceremony and a garden ceremony in Oakland at the zoo. And we had 100 people. We had a British DJ. We danced. We had roses on the tables. We had it catered. It was beautiful, beautiful service. So then in 2008, in September 23rd, same day as our 2001 garden wedding, we got married in City Hall at the top of the stairwell in front of the Harvey Milk statue in San Francisco, September 23rd, 2008. Well, then in November, our marriage was invalidated. We were actively opposed to Proposition 8. And I was totally devastated that Prop 8 had passed in my state of California, the progressive, open-minded state, and that the citizens said we weren't equal citizens. So the same election that brought in Barack Obama banned gay marriage for me. Anything that can help any of us elevate our own aura, our own being to a higher level, whatever does that for you, you got to do it, because the dark forces are all around us.
You get to be fully, totally, completely who you are. And if people don't get that, it's their problem, not yours.